Hi guys, welcome to this edition of If You Asked Jimmy. I'm very excited today because we have promised over and over in our my presentations, in my videos, that we're going to be having guests on this program, and they're going to come to help us to shed more lights on issues. It's not supposed to be a monologue from me to us. It's actually the channel. It's my channel, is your channel, it's everybody's channel. It's actually for our societies, for our community, and it's for all shades of opinion that can help us to learn, to grow, and to be able to live better in this complex and dynamic and rapidly changing world. And today I'm very, very excited to bring to you our first guest on this show. After we meet today, someone I've known for donkey years, since back in the days. I'll let him introduce himself to us. Uh,
Thank you very
Ade, can
much.
you just introduce yourself so I don't
Absolutely.
get
My
go
name
ahead.
is Ademola Dayo. I've been in the UK for a while now. I'm an IT professional,
Wow.
and we've known each other a long time. You've known me from when I was a teenager.
Why are you exposing me?
and and you could have easily said I'm your bro, because we looked at you trained my younger sister. You trained them on organs, pianos in those days. So we looked at you as a very talented individual, even from a very young age. We respected you a lot, and we still respect you now. So it's
Ade,
an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be part of your program.
wow. So you're exposing the music part of me to the whole world now. Well, thank you.
It's not an expose yet.
Anyway, we've come a long way, and I know that you've been in diaspora for so long. You want to tell us a little about that?
Yes, I've been in diaspora now for a long while. I would say 3 decades. It
Mm,
was actually going to be 3 decades in July.
wow.
I think it's June, because I left Nigeria a year after June 12th. So yeah,
Wow.
it would be,
Wow.
yeah. So June 12th. So I'll say June, it would be 3 decades. I know a lot of people would try to now do some maths,
So do the
but
maths.
again,
Yeah.
I will leave I will leave my age out of it.
Oh, yeah. June 12 was 1993.
94,
June 12, 93.
93. So
Okay. The election happened at 93, but it looks
but
like,
the protest, the
okay. All
first
right.
protest
Okay. Okay.
to mark June 12 happened in 94. And
Okay.
then I think the second protest
All
was
right.
when I left
All
Nigeria.
right. So much
Yeah.
about that. But you didn't tell us the part that were you actually born in the UK or you migrated to UK eventually?
So I was the first generation of people that were actually born in the
You were
UK.
you were born in the UK.
My parents, my dad and his siblings came to the UK to study,
Okay.
and they all gave back to their kids in the UK
All
around
right.
the same time, and then they moved back, took us all back to Nigeria. Yeah.
Awesome. There's a reason why I'm bringing that in. It's not too much about the diaspora in you, because we are talking about our country here. We're talking about Nigeria. We're talking about Africa, and that's what this channel is going to be about. We're going to also be talking about the global space. So we are looking at
Absolutely.
ourselves from Nigerian extraction to the diaspora space. I am speaking from the US right now. So where are you at? Where are you at right now? Where are you having this interview from?
I'm based in the UK,
Oh,
and I'm based in a city called Bristol, which is southwest of the UK.
all right. I live in Dallas, Texas, and we're doing this for a reason because
Yeah,
we are both here and there,
of
and
course.
both places at the same time. We are
Mhm.
fully here. We are fully here. We are fully there, and we still maintain our roots back home. Is that correct?
Absolutely, to the point where a lot of people actually mistake me. I will tell you a little story that comes to mind
Mm-hmm.
is we went for a party in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with my nieces and nephews. And when we got to our Ijebu,
Mm-hmm.
I told the driver to slow down, and every familiar face I saw from about 5 minutes before we got to our house. I was greeting them from the car, saying hello, catching up. Older people said, when did you arrive? I'm just getting home now. I'm actually on my way from the airport. When we got home, my nephew asked me, said, Uncle, where do you live? I said, what kind of question is that? You see me in England all the time. He said, but I'm confused because the way you spoke to these people, our parents don't speak to these people the same way. So how come you have more dialogues with everybody you meet and you don't live here? So it's all about connecting and establishing that connection wherever you are to make sure that you don't lose in touch with your roots.
Absolutely. So I think we are getting in the grind already because you are fully here, you are fully there, the same way with me. And what we're trying to establish is just to find a sync, because diaspora can displace people. Part of the challenges we are facing, in this generation is this disconnect, especially for those who are not just, maybe vacationing abroad, those who have come to abroad to stay. So from your experience and with modern happenings, how will you say, I hear people coming to diaspora. I've heard, let me tell you an experience or something I heard.
Yeah.
There was just a gist I had with someone one day, and he said there's a particular man that came to the US, and when he arrived at the US, they picked him up at the airport, and they were driving him home to where they stay at the airport, and he was looking around for the first time. It was his first international trip. He had never vacationed abroad before. And the thing that came out of his mouth was, wow, this place looks this good. This looks like this. It was jokingly now.
Yes.
You just met it later. This is another heaven. No. I mean, you understand. And he said that if some people were given the passport or the visa to heaven, and they were given the visa to that country, that probably people will pick the visa of that country first, because at least they can see this one first. That heaven, they are not sure.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, so that leads me to what eventually said. I think the conclusion was that after he stayed for a while, he felt that he was not going to return back to Nigeria, that this is where he's going to die and be buried. It wasn't an instant thing, but when he started experiencing the US, and that is the same story. I think that's common story. I hear that narrative a lot in our community. People who say, they talk down Nigeria, they feel, why are you going, that whatever whole country, they don't want to go back. Because they have crossed to diaspora, they feel that they are better off than everybody, or just they feel comfortable here because of the order in the society and everything. So what do you say, or what's your opinion on those people who are migrated and they don't feel connected to their root again, or they have made up their mind that they are never gonna go back?
It's a difficult one because we can't judge people's circumstances and decisions. The circumstances around what they decide is based on their experience. Luckily for me, I came when I was 19. So I came back when I was 19. I didn't have any worry in the world. I didn't have any perception. I was still a teenager growing into a man. And at that time, and you know how the culture is in Ijebu.
Boys to men.
Yes. So I was pretty much a teenager, I would say, even though when I got here, the first cultural shock is, actually, I'm free now. I can make some critical decisions myself without actually calling daddy or calling mommy, which was it was a novelty for me for a long time. But still, one thing I never did from that age till now was go out and never come back the same night. Even if I go to, no matter how far it is, I will always come back to my...
You were self-censored, personal discipline.
So I think it's partly because I went to boarding school in Nigeria, and all these principles, disciplines have been instilled into me. Before we even get into your question, people always ask me this, and people always say this among the diaspora that returned. They always say if they were to be left here and not go back to Nigeria, they would be better off. And I always correct that notion. I always say, no, Nigeria made you who you are today. Nigeria gave you all the substance you have today. That if you didn't go back to Nigeria, you wouldn't know your hand from your elbow. You would do exactly what a typical British person would do. Go and study, graduate, and then find a job, be comfortable, and worry about nobody else.
That leads me to the question: do you still feel connected to your roots? Some people say they don't want to go back. What's your own personal opinion on that? You might talk about what you said. Everybody has a right to their choices.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your perception on that?
My perception on that is:
will you go back someday? Or you're
I'm definitely. I've done my 360 now, and I think I know I'm at that point where I'm planning my return. I'm already planning my return. I've got my house is almost completed in Ibadan. So yeah. And then I'm not even sure if I'll be staying in West Africa or East Africa, because part of what I do, I'm into mining, and part of a lot of my mining exposure is in East Africa.
What's your background professionally?
My background is finance, but I evolved into an IT professional.
All right, and then you are into mining. There's so many parts to you. Okay, don't let me distract you. You're talking about you don't know whether you're going to still return to Nigeria West Africa or East. Continue.
But I know one thing I know for a fact is I'm returning back to Africa. Wow. Whether it's the East or the West, that's what I haven't decided yet.
East or West, home is the best.
Home is exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
I'm still gonna take you. It looks like I'm going the rabbit hole on this. Forgive me. We are trying to address that perception of people.
Yes.
Because there's a reason why they say they're not going back. We are going back to your own case. But what's your view on that? Even though you respect everybody's view, but as someone that is rooted,
yes,
you are a British. That's what we will say. You are a British citizen, and then you're also a original
yeah, exactly. Then
you guy. And you are confirmed somebody that still identifies with his root. What will you say to the people like that? I'm not looking for advice in the sense of it, but what is your view on how people arrived at that? Because it's not looking like a small minority that we can ignore. It looks like something that, and sometimes, this kind of, herd mentality, people tend to now have a kind of mindset that is getting popular, in the popular opinion. What would you say to that?
The reason why I decided that, well, it wasn't a decision, it was more of a you evolve. I feel a man evolve every 5 years. I always try to technology, things are always moving, so we cannot hold one single view for a long period of time when everything around us is constantly changing. We ourselves need to unlearn and relearn certain things about where we are and where we're going. And reinvent. So a lot of people have different experiences. I've got friends now that his parents, after spending their whole life in Nigeria, retiring in Nigeria, now they've decided they want to move to the US. Actually, they're in the same state as you in the US. They've now moved. They've moved for good to the US. No going back.
That is Japada. What about those who decide to stay here and they just because of this, especially this thing is coming. Let me put a background to it because of the state of Nigeria. They feel so frustrated with the system. They feel so exasperated. And they just don't want to have, they are, I don't know, maybe they are traumatized by the Nigeria situation. What will you say to that?
They have the right to be frustrated and traumatized, especially in the last 5 years. Things have gone from bad to worse, especially in a place like Nigeria. Insecurity is something that one cannot really compromise. And if Nigeria is in a place where you can't feel secure, you don't feel secure when you walk certain time of the night or even in broad daylight, then they have a right to review their position.
Okay, so you don't have... Okay, finish your thoughts.
Yeah, and for me, this is where I say East or West. East Africa, 2 a.m. in middle of Nairobi, you find anybody from all walk of life.
Have you been there, or you just, you know, being theoretical, maybe what you read or what you see online?
I go to East Africa at least 3 to 4 times a year.
For real?
Yes. So what I'm saying is something I've experienced, and we have that conversation amongst my friends.
To all Kenyans watching.
Kenyans, Tanzanians, Ugandans, Congolese.
Can you say a word in Kenyan? Is there any like hello, hi?
Akuda Matata is okay.
All right,
everything is okay, and then you could say something like Sawa. Sawa is and Karibu is welcome.
Okay, so you don't have anything against people's personal decision whether to go back or not to go back.
I don't, but again, I understand their experience and I understand their frustration, and especially if you're looking at Nigeria alone, a lot of people were exposed to. They're from the western part of Africa, where insecurity is a challenge.
So they have good reasons
to be a challenge. Yes, they have good reasons.
So, but on the whole of it, since you are someone that has this balance of here and there, what would be your advice? You're not trying to change anybody's mind, but what would be the best case scenario? Because who is going to do it? Everybody just gets out of the country and nobody returns, and they're not even planning to return. And mind you, when the adults say these things, their children are listening. Did we exit never to go back to build, or never to go back, or never to have things with our roots? Because no matter how long we stay, I hold both the blue and the green passport. For example, you hold the British and whatever it is worth. You can't take away this melanil, this thing, and you can't take away our Nigerianness. So what would be your advice, especially because we are learning to grow and to also be able to be relevant globally? And if all diasporans say, a lot of diasporans are now saying, and their children are listening, where does that take us? What would be your advice?
That is a problem on its own. I've been at work. I wouldn't mention the workplace. This was a while ago. And this young lady was talking about Nigeria, and I was boiling. I couldn't express. I couldn't say, because it was in a canteen. She was telling a British counterpart what her mom told her about Nigeria. That, well, you can't trust anybody. You can't tell them when you're arriving. You can't tell them when you're leaving. You can't tell them what's going on with your life abroad. You can't. It was pretty much negative. There was no single thing she shared that was positive. This is a girl that's never been to Nigeria. And
that's
the narrative she's got from home, from her mom. Now, how is this girl meant to how is she going to be a PR for Nigeria if all the narrative she's got is negative? So I always try to look at the positive aspect. That is a growing environment. It's an environment where it's organic. There's still opportunities. Obviously, the reason, personally for me, I feel I've done a lot here. I've contributed to this economy. I have a lot of skill set now. I would like to transfer those skill set back to where I come from and try and use that skill set to better my environment, better my people. Exactly, because no matter how long we stay here, we're still, if I'm to be described in UK today, funny enough, I walked in a place where on the floor, I think I was the only colored person, black person, but I was the only Bristolian.
Wow.
I was the only Bristolian, born in Bristol. But if they were to describe me, they say, Ade, you know Ade now, the Nigerian guy, Ade.
Wow.
So, but if you go by paper, I'm more Bristolian than they were.
But
they still describe me in that way. That Ade, the Nigerian guy, that, oh, you know Ade. So that tells you something, that regardless of how long you stay here, you're part and parcel of what's going on in the community, but you still belong. Your roots still belong to that place you come from. So you have to always nurture the roots. If you don't nurture the roots, the whole plant will die.
Absolutely. That leads me to the next question. Well, I thought I was going to call you something different, like Mr. Ade or whatever. Ade, come to think of it, is there hope for Nigeria? Because we can't tell people to stay connected to their roots, and is, I mean, everything around them is telling them otherwise, that they don't feel safe, they don't, there's, everything is not in order. What do you say?
I think nature has a funny way of correcting things, even if it's not corrected by humans. If you're paying attention, you realize that I'm not saying God, I'm saying nature.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that is an undertone of your personal spirituality. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that side someday. But
yeah.
So, is there hope for Nigeria? Is there hope? Is there should they look back to? Is there anything to look forward to, or is there a reason to go back someday? Is there hope for Nigeria?
There is hope for Nigeria. Unfortunately, things have got to the point where it may not be in our lifetime or in our children's lifetime, but
for real. So why would they go back to where there is still not, like, it's going to be okay in their lifetime? Why would they go back to their lifetime?
People like us will have to return and put the foundation down. Then some people would obviously pick from that piece of work and run with it. But this thing, if something that's, I mean, if things that are destroyed in 5 minutes, it could take 5 years to build. We've neglected institutions, parastatals for decades. It's going to take a long time to build those back, even with the right person, right leadership, and the right mindset.
So what you are saying is that there is hope, but it's not going to be like a quick fix. It's not going to be like an instant kind of thing, like Indomie noodles.
No, it won't. There's no shortcut, unfortunately. And I don't know if you had a story of an entrepreneur that was actually thriving in some part of Lagos. That then all of a sudden there was a new proposal. Well, a proposal that was on ground that actually ran on the path of the proposal. It was a coastal road proposal.
I remember. Let's leave the name of I know the organization.
So I'm an investor. I invest in various businesses. If I was part of that investment, and I feel for the guy, and I feel for the investors as well, because what that would do is deter investors from looking at opportunities in Nigeria. These are the things we're doing that is damaging our image of getting investment from diaspora.
Okay.
So things like that we need to fix. Then we need to fix, I mean, if you're in a place and health-wise, you need to quickly fly to somewhere else to get a medical checkup and get medical attention. Right. You can't really stay there for long. Even though I'm planning to be there, but I know I can easily get on a plane and fly back to the UK or fly somewhere else if I need attention or any. But there are loads of people that are not in that situation. And there are loads of people that have sold everything. I mean, the Japa is a new thing now. Loads of people have sold everything they had in Nigeria to move over. So why are they going back? What are they going back to? Luckily for someone like me, I got to a point. I left Nigeria long before any of this hardship. Right. Only because, the university are striking every day, things are not stable, and Dad does business here. So I thought, if I come here, I'll be able to help him and then further my education and settle into the system, which I did.
Right.
So I've now gone through the cycle of growing up, understanding my roots, doing a lot of research, and then getting to a point in life that, now it's time to move back. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Fortunately, I think I read in the news last week that I think you're talking about, I've tried to keep brands out of this. We're talking about Landmark. I saw a kind of signing of some business agreement with some other state government in Nigeria to develop some resorts, and we wish him well because we want diasporans to have hope. You're talking about when we're in secondary school. I went to secondary school, but because we call it high school in America, I'm always saying when I was in high school, So there's this thing they talk about, factors of production and things that affect the businesses. They will talk about political instability and all those kind of things, policies on assault and all those kind of things. So like you said, we hope that our environment in Nigeria, the political and economic, socio-political and economic environment will be conducive, because like what you are saying is that you sympathize with those people who are not even having that mind to go back home. It's not because they are bad or wrong, it's just because of the system, and it's not offering hope. And definitely nobody wants to go to an unpredictable environment that might just make them to be back on their knees if they are not careful. And with all careful planning, they don't want Nigeria to happen to them, and then probably they feel a little bit more secured where things are more organized and a little bit more of a predictable investment environment. Yeah. So every investment involves risks and uncertainties, but at least there should be some manageable variables that will not leave somebody totally planless and gented, like we say in Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're talking about our roots, let's go back. I'm very passionate about my Yoruba-ness as a person, even though I'm very, very tribalized.
Yes.
Right from my childhood days, I have more friends out of Yoruba land than even Yoruba itself. When I was getting married, out of my 5 groomsmen, I think, no, 4, 2 of them were Igbos. My best man was Igbo. You understand? So I've been like kind of, and I have friends all over the country. But when I look at Yoruba-ness, kind of, this is not a Yoruba conversation, but I want to use what I know.
Of course.
It's just like going from the known to the other side. I look at our traditional institutions, for example. Recently, a new king is not elected, right? He's not selected, he's not appointed. What is the word now? What is the word?
I'll say crowned, but it's not crowned
okay,
yet.
Let's say announced. Let's say announced.
Announced, yes.
Yeah. The coronation will come later. I think the governor has already handed over the staff of office. I get concerned when I look at the traditional institution. Look at the throne of the Alaafin, for example. Is a highly exalted throne. This is a kingdom that extended to even all of most of the West African region in the past. The Oyo Empire, before the colonizers came to interrupt our our society.
Development.
And I look at this tool of the Oni of Ife, for example. Maybe I should start from there. I personally get concerned with certain. Maybe it's because of these days of social media. Our kings right now, especially the most paramount ones, they are very young people, very young. I think I do not know the age range of the Alaafin. I've not checked out, but they all need to be in the same bracket with us. Like you were making me, you're saying you are my bro, like my younger brother. You're making me making me old instantly on the screen. I'm not that old, But what I'm saying is that we are still like the same generation with them. So you could have been the Alaafin or me the Oni, or is it me that will be the Alaafin or you the Oni? So where I'm going with that is this.
Yes.
Even though you think they are young getting to that throne, you'll be surprised that even their fathers, some of them got to the throne before them. But these are institutions that are having a lot of negative things around them. The other Alaafin, Baba in his age, very agile man, he was a boxer, he was a sportsman, very highly intelligent. You need to look at the speeches. But you see some young people that he got married to later that brought bringing embarrassment, in the social space to not the throne now, because we have to separate the throne from the monarch himself, at least to the monarch. And look at the Oni thing as well. It's just about, I don't know how they are managing that space that they bring their private life to the public in such a way, especially with the Olori thing, the scandals things, and then he married en masse, and apart from that, you just see all the wives want to show off in the social media and everything. Another concerning thing, sorry, I'll let you answer. I'm bringing these things so that you can address them together. They are surrounding the throne. Is for me to see the Oni of Ife. I'm a Christian, for example. I'm a minister of the gospel in my own right, by the grace of God. But I can feel grieved in my spirit, even though people say that the Oni was kneeling down for God and not for the pastor. Don't let me even go there. But the point is that the kind of submission that there is no divide, like UK that you are, there's a kind of handshake between religion and the state, okay, and everywhere. But at the same time, the Queen is still the head of the Church of England. You understand? And nobody in Yoruba, they say that where you call the head, you don't step on your head, you don't walk on your head, that kind of a thing. There's a kind of I don't know if to call it desecration. You see these are monarchs, especially those big stools of Oni. I don't know about Alaafin, but I this is not about Oni himself, but it's just about our roots. I see him like attending parties and people, kind of bashing him for that and that kind of a thing. It looks like his face is too much seen, where the sacredness of that throne in the past, you don't get to see them, too often because they are deified. Okay.
Yes.
Now, at this point, we see them maybe because they are younger or whatever, and they have that energy and, not those kind of whatever, the kind of mindset. But there's a training school called IPEBI, where,
Yes.
The royalty, even in Britain, you see there's a way they groom them for that royalty and kind of thing.
Yes.
So putting all of these things together, the selection process, the way those individuals that are manning those tools, the projection that they are having in the public, you see people talk to them anyhow these days and all of these things. What would you say about the traditional institutions in our Yoruba space now? We can use other kings by extension, but I just brought in those two because they are very visible.
Yeah.
That's a long question, right?
It's a long question. You covered a lot of things. So you'll have to pretty much interject every time, whenever I'm talking, so that we can start answering them piece by piece.
Yeah.
But by and large, I think Oni has done a great job.
He has done a great job.
He's done a great job.
Kábíyèsí o.
Yes.
Kábíyèsí Ọjájá, the second, right?
Yeah, Ọjájá Kejì, yes.
Ọjájá Kejì.
Yes. I think he's done a great job.
Abade something.
Ọba Ogunwusi.
Ogunwusi, Kábíyèsí Oríadé o.
I think he's done a great job because I've seen some of I am an African spiritualist.
Oba Adeyeye
Ogunwusi, yes. Yes, I'm an African spiritualist.
Really?
I renounced Christianity about 4 or 5 years ago, based on the fact that I do not want to call on a foreign savior. I rather call on my own ancestors to save me or to support me.
So you and I are sitting on two different religious divides. That's so.
Yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't call it a divide. I'll call it a perception.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are looking at it from two different perspectives.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not divided. We're having a conversation. We're talking about way forward.
I heard, sorry, maybe people will now see our connection now. I heard that you're still supporting your home church when they have things to do.
Of course.
Really, despite your...
Even if Imam come to me and say, this is what we're trying to do in my community, I will give them money. I'll give them money. They will go and do what they need to do. And if pastor says, oh, this is your portion, we're doing this, we're doing that, this is what we allocated that you need to do, I will do it.
Sorry, I barged into your thoughts. Continue.
Absolutely. I think that's what we need to do so that I can answer all your question. But as I was saying earlier, I think Oni did a great job because I feel like initially his first few years was a bit wobbly.
Rocky.
Because he had, very wobbly and rocky, and whatever time we want to use for it, I think it was very unstable. Yes. On the family side, on the home front, women were obviously acting up in ways that we've never heard or read. And recently, I'm actually very proud of the way he's managed that. Decided, and if you notice, we've not had much from from his palace in the last few years, compared to when he had one woman. So
all the drama.
Yeah, so I mean, I do some sort of investment, and coming from a finance background, I think sometimes you have to diversify, and he's done that very well.
God, this guy, you are so mean.
And he's done that so well that he doesn't have to worry about that aspect now. Now he can focus on his job of developing the community.
Diversify.
My brother, it's just that simple. And I think different cases, the Alaafin that transitioned, Ikuba Bayeye.
Aláṣẹ Èkejì Òrìṣà.
Aláṣẹ Èkejì Òrìṣà.
Ọba Lámídì Adéyẹmí.
Yes. He had a different dilemma. The man is getting to a point in his life that he needed some sort of action. Yes. He needed some sort of action in the palace. Just people tell us all sorts. So he invited all these girls to come and stay in the palace and be his queen and all of that.
They caused a lot of some scandals, you know.
Yes, they did, because there's no way you can put all these people together and not expect friction.
I mean, especially in the social space, in the social media space, that doesn't look good on Yorubas and that throne.
I know. But then another thing that we don't look at is what they are doing in diaspora. For example, when Oni visited Cuba, people were actually saying, look, in the olden days, according to their own understanding, they feel like when a king visits, there's got to be some sort of sacrifice, that really important sacrifices that need to be made. And people were ready to sacrifice themselves voluntarily.
Excuse me?
Yes.
For real?
Yes, if you check places like that, places like Cuba, places like Brazil, people were actually volunteering. Now, that's how strong these people believe in our tradition and culture.
I will circle back. Is that the throne that's supposed to be bowing? He has a right to be a Christian, but the way these people conduct themselves in the religious space, okay, look at what happened to Gandhi, Oba Gandhi, Kabiyesi.
Yes.
He was in America for a long time, he was a pastor and everything. The kind of subjugation, I'm a Christian, I'm a minister of the gospel, but I have my reservation about the extent to which our traditional still goes. They can bow to God, they can give honor to God, but the kind of subjugation of the authority. Okay, I'm an interviewer here, not the interviewee. What do you say to that? When people are respecting you abroad and you don't seem to respect yourself and that throne enough, what do you say to that?
I think that's the society. I don't know.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I see what you see. And I don't want to share my strong opinion here on that, but I'll still say this. I'll still say that for me, I find it difficult, especially with my own spirituality. I find it really hard to understand that there's a reason they call these people Alashe Kejurisha. These are meant to be people that could actually be closer to the universe or to nature or God, for better word.
Are we and they all victims of colonization or colonial mentality and brainwashing? Because it's not personal, they came through a process.
Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely. And I think the Ikpebi process is been truncated in a lot of ways. Sometimes, in some cases, it takes three months. In some cases, it takes shorter. In some cases, it takes 7 days. So there's nothing that is aligning with our original beliefs any longer. We've truncated it to the point where we are trying to align it as much as possible to our own view and beliefs, not to the root, the culture that was handed over to us. There was a scenario when Alaafin Ikuba Bayeye transitioned. The Muslim decided they wanted to pray for him, and they were praying, reciting all sorts upon his body. And there was a lot of social media hoo-ha that that shouldn't happen. So I reached out to the head of Olorisha in Oyo.
Wow.
I reached out to him.
Indeed.
And I said, Baba, please explain to me, is this wrong or should this? And the man broke it down. I said, look, Oba Balore Ongbogboo.
Exactly, it belongs to everybody. It's
yes.
a all, Christian, Muslim, traditional.
Exactly. If the Christians said they want to pray for him, they are free to do so. But it was put through the guild. I want to call it guild. Obviously, some sort of initiation. When you are in Ikpebi, you go through training, you go through some sort of initiation into certain guilds. Because it's Oyo, you go through a Shango guild. That is confirmed anywhere. Nobody can question that. If it's Ife, it will be Obatala. And if it's Oshogbo, it'll be Oshun.
Ìdálù níṣèlú.
Yes. So I think people are now beginning to truncate these processes. So these are the places where they should be telling you that these are the do's, these are the don'ts, and these are the things you cannot do. How can you kneel down? You're not even meant to kneel down as a king from the moment you become a king.
You got it.
But again, we wouldn't want to say too much and criticize any king.
Yeah, good. So much for the traditional institution. I said we can't unpack it in one interview, but I want us to touch as many areas as possible without boring our viewers. What will you say? Let's get back to the Japa thing right now. I don't know if you're ready for that.
Yeah.
You, like you said earlier, that you came very young age. You were born in UK, so you have been like almost 50 years or thereabout. You know, where when you were born in the UK. Sorry, did I leak your age? do we have to edit this part of anyway? Maybe if you're not comfortable,
fine. I'm not.
I can tell my producers to take care of that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going somewhere with that.
Okay.
So what advice will you have for people who are still thinking of japaing? Number one, because the question should not be whether people should japa or not.
Yes.
Things are not looking rosy at home. So usually I don't want to even get to japa or don't japa. It's a personal choice. But what will you say to those who want to japa? And you are living in UK. UK of then and UK of now. So 2 questions. Whether to any part of the world, what will you say to someone that is thinking of japaing? And then if they are japaing to UK, what will you be saying to them? What's your advice?
My advice now is UK of then and UK now is 2 different places. I feel the hardship and the fact that UK is in a unique position that Brexit happened and that left UK with very fewer friends. So now we're in a situation where a lot of work has moved abroad. In the finance space, I've done some work in Europe. I've done some work here in the UK, and I've traveled to Greece, did few months in Greece, did few months in Germany. This was way before Brexit. I don't have that opportunity anymore because the bureaucratic process of working abroad is now
Europe is now abroad to you, even though
of course. So there's a lot of paperwork. Even to travel to Germany, you still need some sort of you need to, I think there's a waiver. There was a warning that you need to look into traveling. I don't know from what date it will be effective from, but you need to look at how if you're traveling, you need to get the right waiver to travel. So coming back to work and what UK looks like now, UK is going through again a phase that things are difficult. And people are coming in for specific type of job. But these people are becoming quite, they understand the situation that things are hard. And they will diversify. They will look at other areas where they could try to get job and do their retraining. But notwithstanding, UK is still very tough. It's a tough place to live.
No, sorry, people would think that if you are telling them some things, it's like, oh, you are there, you didn't die, you are surviving, we'll make it. So don't disturb us. When we get there, we'll use our eyes to see.
My advice is, if you have a good means of coming here to work, please do. That's my advice. Please do. But at the same time, do not sell your properties. Do not sell your belongings. Leave things where they are. Move yourself. Try and move yourself as much as you can over. And if in some cases you find out the husband will come first, or the wife will come first, do a bit of work, and then settle, and then start calling on the family to join when things are a bit settled here, so they don't have to sell their properties where they're coming from. They don't. Last thing people want to do without understanding the system is to sell their belongings, have no plan B, come to the UK, then realize that they're stuck and they have nowhere else to go. The best position to be in is not just to have a plan B, but to have a business that, there's something needed back in Nigeria, so you can source it and do that while you're settling yourself.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Something just came to our mind because the interview cannot be everlasting.
I know.
Yeah, I've been listening to you, and you are not even. You are sounding like me. I've been living in US for close to a decade right now. You've been a Britico all your life. At least
Yeah,
you've been back on the soil of Britain for like over 30 years.
yeah.
Or like 30 years, 30 years ish. You are still sounding like me. What do you say about people who will travel to Dubai? I heard that joke a lot. Dubai for 2 weeks and the accent will just change overnight. Is Dubai they went to Arabic country and they get back to Nigeria? No, I mean, you're not forming any accent. I actually know you have a British accent.
Yes,
Am I
yeah.
trying to sound American already?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Do you get that? Do you see that? Does that
Well,
strike you?
any stage in the UK, people will frustrate you, especially when you live in a smaller city. I didn't grow up in London, and I didn't spend a week in London in all my time in the UK. So I moved to Bristol because this is where my parents studied. This is where my parents knew well, and the extended family, my cousins. So I was the only person that did that. Everybody else moved across the country. So coming here was quite challenging for an African person. And I'll tell you, I think it was about 3 of us in that age group out of the whole city that were
Ooh,
from Nigeria. So we were forced to be friends.
wow. Pressed by force.
Yeah. So it was very challenging. We went through the phase of trying to adapt the accent. But then I got to a point that, you know what, I'm not doing this. And
Leave me out of
if you,
that.
yeah, you see that you try to understand me and you listen or you don't.
What's your advice to those who form accent things? If they're speaking it correctly and it's just on they're on
Why?
top of
Why do you
it.
do that in the first place? I don't understand why people do that. That you're trying to change how you speak. I don't get that because are you? There's a deeper question. That are you when you're a child, when you're a teenager, I mean, you want to align with your peers. You want to do what your peers are doing, especially in college, and when you have all these people from all sorts of
All
walks
over,
of life,
all over.
and then picking on you for one reason or the other, you want to sound like them, so everybody sounds the same. But as a grown person, are you saying you're not comfortable with who you are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because that's how you speak. It's not good enough.
I used to make a joke that
Yes.
it's just too late. Why? Because I will if I don't end up biting myself or whatever, I will sound so fake that So I just wanted to throw that out there. Because of our time, let me ask you: as you came to, you are saying as a teenager, you're probably 19, so you're exiting teenage,
Yes. Yes.
teenagehood already.
Yes.
So you were a matured, grown backside man by the time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let me ask you this way: am I speaking some accent? No, I'm so fake, right? Okay. So, there's a way you guys speak different from
Yes.
America. You
Absolutely.
know it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, and Nigerians now are so confused, especially the children. Sometimes they are mixing the two. They don't even know the difference. And there are
Yes.
some words that have actually cross-carpeted
Yes.
into the
Yes.
space, So just, on a lighter mode, family. What is it like parenting, raising children in diaspora? I know that you have grown-up children who are probably out of their teens already, some
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
teens, and someone asked, so what was it like and how is
Certainly the generation is different.
mm.
So I
You mean the
mean,
Gen Zs, right?
yeah, well, our generation, we've given birth now to children, and our generation is different to theirs, and we have to understand that. I understand my dad's generation. There's a particular story that stuck in my mind
Tell me about
that
it.
my dad and his siblings and my grandma, they lost a pound.
Hmm.
A pound. That was in Nigeria when they were still using a
Using
pound.
British
They lost
currency.
a pound. I think it was they discovered that they lost a pound around 7 p.m. in the evening, and they traveled. They walked 3 miles, and 7 o'clock is dark already. They
That's
walked 3 miles back to the village. They were coming back from the farm. They walked 3 miles back to the village looking for that 1 pound
wow.
for 3 miles, and they walked 3 miles back looking
Wow.
for the money again, and they couldn't find it.
Wow.
And then if I look at what my son, which is 9, we just
Your
spend on
youngest son,
Pokemon
though.
cards. I think my great grandma would turn in her grave if she understand what this boy spends on cards.
Wow.
So the generation is very different. We have to understand that the way we've trained them. And then when I was growing up, this actually happened. I was talking to a young girl that was going through the same thing you described. Her parents moved them to UK, and the girl was frustrated with her dad. So she was telling me, and she said to me that we live in the UK, but he's still trying to train us as if we're in Nigeria.
Ooh.
I said, what do you mean? He said, well, there are certain things that I want to do, that I'm doing, that all my friends do in school, but this girl cannot remember Nigeria. So how can you then try to? She can't even speak Yoruba to start with.
Wow.
She spoke in British accent. So, and the man didn't mind. He didn't mind them not speaking Yoruba anymore. They used to speak Yoruba until they got to a point where they couldn't even remember the language anymore, and they couldn't speak the language. They can't remember it. They can't speak it. And then you're still trying to train them as if they're back home.
Right.
Which is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to them. When you lose your language, you lose part of your culture.
Absolutely. We're going to do more of that in other editions. Definitely, you're not our only guest, but I'm trying to squeeze you, get as much as possible.
Yeah.
Going back to these Gen Zs, let's call them the way they call themselves. They speak a different language from us. They have some words that if they speak, they understand. Someone like me, I'm just so lost until I go check. And some of those words are finding their way to the dictionary. Well, yeah, I think part of what you are trying to say is culture.
Culture shock. The difference.
Culture shock and everything. What would you say is the challenges that parents are actually facing? Because the parents are losting. I know there's no word like
losting.
The parents I know. They're floating, and the kids are just, it looks like there is a kind of disconnect. We're trying to train them with the mindset of Africa, and it looks as if, here it doesn't look as if. Here is definitely different. So now, can two work together except they be agreed, or they agree? How does that play in the upbringing of these children right here? And the independence, the kind of independence children enjoy, and the kind of conflict that causes in families.
It's a very tricky one, because a lot of parents would still like to train and train their children the same way they were trained.
Home training.
Home training. But our version of home training is quite different now. If you try certain things in the modern society we live in now, you get yourself into it.
No, if you do anyhow, you see anyhow now.
Exactly. So you don't want to do that. But at the same time, you want them to share the same value that you share.
Value.
Yes. You want them to have the same drive that you have. You want them to be as responsible as you are. But at the bottom line is, the challenges you face it, it's your experience. The challenges they will face will be their experience.
Especially in this global space of internet, and social media, everything is just...
The best thing one can do is to just have a relationship.
Have
a relationship with your daughter, your son. Understand each other well. My youngest, I don't want to talk about the old ones. My youngest understood me to a point that he knows certain things. He knows what I'll say to him when things transpire.
Wow.
So even at school, so he would tell his mom, there was a joke that the mom was telling me that they had something happen in school. I can't remember what. And he said, when they finished having a conversation in school, they got to the car. And he said, we don't really need to tell that this one, do we? We don't really need to.
They remove you out of the setting. Like we said, I want your setting.
Yeah. And then she said, when it comes to you, there's nothing I should hide when it comes to you from him. But on this one, it's not serious. So let's not worry him about that.
And that shows
And
the
that's it.
relationship that he has with the mom. That's the confidence that he can.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about. Now,
Yes.
I don't know if this is going to be our final question or not, but it depends on how quickly we're able to do it.
Yeah.
I have heard of parents, especially in our own generation, who had to send their children back home for training, so-called home training, so that they will, because they are so scared about what is going on. Even then, that was not even the days of internet and everything. They were so scared at the culture divide. Now it's even worse, in a more complicated, so to say, in our own age right now. What is your perception on that, and what will you say, what's your view on parents sending back their children to Africa, any part of Africa, Nigeria, wherever, because they think they want them to have a feel of their culture, and they don't want this place, to the West or the diaspora, to mess the kids up for them, or they are not even in control, they can't handle the children or whatever, for whatever reason. What's your view on sending children back home for training?
I think it's perfect.
Really?
It's a perfect factory reset for a child misbehaving.
When the parents are sitting in diaspora, who can train a child like the parents?
I have a different view on that. See, parents, sometimes we try to overcompensate for what we didn't have, or what our parents didn't do for us. So we try to overcompensate when we're training our child abroad. To start with, you will have been seeing elements of misbehavior from early stage that you didn't deal with. Then it got to a point that obviously things have blown over, things are out of control. Then you as a parent can't handle it anymore. Otherwise, you get yourself into.
Okay, what of normal children who are not, dysfunctional? They are not misbehaving. They just say because of the culture, you should go and learn the culture.
No, I disagree with that, because the parents should be doing enough work to instill that culture into the children, even though it's challenging. For example, the language, speaking Yoruba, for example, now to your child abroad is a lot of teaching them Yoruba is a lot of work, and because you were working, we're always occupied with other things. We're not able to give them the time they need to learn these things. And I don't know if you've experienced this. The word "we" is always a challenge for non-Yoruba speakers, especially diasporans, to pronounce. And till today,
which word?
"We." GB.
Okay, GB. Right. Like PI. Right.
Yes, yeah, "we." Like, for example, Benga.
Okay, Benga.
Yeah. Benga. Yes. If they don't say Benga, they say Jibenga.
Oh, come on. Wow.
So it's a challenge. And I see a lot of people try it. It's a good thing. I've been to friends' house where they've tried their best to instill this culture the best way they can into their children, and it works fine. But again, I think it's parents' responsibility to raise their children. Okay. You cannot ship them off anywhere else. But when you've missed the boat and things have gone south, then you need to salvage what's left.
Exactly. Yes. Let me quickly get something out of you before we round off completely, because some people, it's not just even for culture or whatever. It's actually due to the fact that the child has gone off tandem, and also they don't want their kids to end up in jail here. It's so bad that they look at the way it's going, that it's getting risky, and probably over there they might still get in trouble, but not get so much severity of the social correction, like jail or whatever. So I think you already answered my question in that. So what would be your last word?
It's fine. I think my own concern for fellow Yoruba youngsters, I will call ourselves
Nigerians too, because
Nigerian. Well, African children.
Africans.
Yeah,
we have to globalize it.
Yes, I think for us, this goes for Yoruba particularly, because I see this problem time and time again when we're trying to relate. Our differences should never be a divide. Our view should never divide us on progress.
Right.
We're trying to enlighten ourselves on experiences, regardless of what we believe in, regardless of our differences. We're still coming together to make this happen. I see in a lot of groups where people have frictions, have clashes, and then break projects
Tell me
down.
about it.
So I think we need to do better on that front. And I think that is our the next generation is depending on us to be able to do better in that area.
You're talking about people not being able to engage constructively. People that they just attack. They cannot represent their opinion in a way that will benefit. Instead, they just
yes, that's partly it. But at the same time, the fact that you're Christian, someone else is Muslim, it shouldn't even be. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people. I remember a lot of people used to, I've dealt with a lot of people from different parts of Nigeria. I just know they're Nigerian. And we're talking, and then I say, hey, what part of Nigeria are you from? And he said, oh, can you not tell with my name? I said, sorry, we call you Nonso, but I don't know whether I don't know. I've never come across that name before.
That's an Igbo name.
Exactly. And the guy said, how can you know? I said, I'm sorry, I've never come across that name before, so I don't know. I said, but we've been talking for. I said, because where you come from in Nigeria, that didn't really have. It didn't really matter.
I get your point. We should be detribalized. We should be neutral.
Exactly.
This interview will not be complete if I do not ask this question. We are talking about it has to do with the mission of this channel, which is, as an independent commentator, my personal vision and goal is to add value in all my callings, especially also to learn, to grow, and to live better in this complex and dynamic, rapidly changing world. Nigeria in the global space, the way we are training our children, our tendencies, and how do we plug in, how do we fit in? Are we even at all? Have we woken up from sleep? Where are we at? What are your opinions on that? And then we round up.
Yeah, we are in a slumber. The same way we are at home.
Say that again.
We are in a slumber.
Ooh.
The same way we are at home, we are
Can
abroad.
You say Nigeria is
Nigerians individually abroad? We are in a slumber.
Over at home. What about at home?
Well, same as
the country as a country.
As a country as well.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So where I'm going to from in diaspora is we individually we create success where it's hard to even define success, but collectively we score 0 in everything we do collectively.
That's hard, man.
That's my view, that we, except if it comes to partying, that we want to celebrate first Independence Day, for example, and we put money together and create an Independence Day party, then we're good at that. But when it comes to coming together to support one another and progress abroad, we don't do that. We cannot do that. It's not cultural for us to do that. And we've not sat down and understood that to say, right, we need to do better in this space. Let's adapt some culture that isn't ours to actually do better. People come through. There's no, hardly would you find Nigerian businesses that was supported by Nigerians that have very little to do with that person in terms of personal personal relationship. We don't have that concept of political, economical power and political power. You don't see us in political sphere much. Obviously, Kemi Badenoch was, but again, we know we didn't put Kemi Badenoch there. She wasn't, she's married to a non-Nigerian. So she basically worked herself and she wanted to. So it wasn't a support of. Whereas, if you look at Rishi Sunak, it's a different story. He became an MP and he will have got some support of his community and the community. Even though we go to church every Sunday, we can come out of church and start boxing one another. We don't really. I think we go to church to basically sensitize us for one thing or the other. So we don't do well, and that needs to change. We are still in that slumber that we don't believe. We believe that the definition of success is individual. How well I've done in my life. But again, how do you want people to see your race, your people? You need to come together and show that. Don't talk it. You need to show it.
Yeah, action speaks louder.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know we should be rounding off, but let us do this. Recently, Trump came up with a lot of presidential orders. There are so many policies he come up with. And apart from the she, him thing, all this gender thing, no more him, she, no more she, him, no more him, shim, and all those kind of, tendencies. The immigration policies are so strong, and this is the season Nigerians are jackpying and jeopardizing. And I actually addressed in one of my podcasts the issue of the gender thing. I think I'm in my future edition.
I saw that. Yes,
immigration impact. One guy came to YouTube. I don't know where he recorded. Maybe any of this social media. Let me say social media. And that guy, he drove home the point. He said that they have all these socio-cultural associations, Igbo this, Yoruba that, Benin this, and that you see them like Owambe thing, that
of course, yes,
partying and all those kind of things. But he now started mentioning some other people who are, galvanizing efforts to make sure that they come to the support, to the defense of their people. They just can't come through for their people. Now that our own, that he has not heard of any Nigerian, socio-cultural organization that is coming, like the protection, because not everybody has, is documented the way it should be, and with this kind of something, and the government, the US, this thing is going all out against immigrants. That only thing where we see Nigerian people for now to just they do all this. So I want you to take it from that angle, and I think it aligns with what we are saying. In UK, you just come online, you see somebody fighting somebody. Go and look at all the social media channels. The channels, this are one kind of channel now. Well, you see how many people we watch, but you see on thousands, hundreds of thousands of views on some things. Be like, will this develop our society or whatever? So, based on what that guy said, I saw a point in it that people don't, what is the value in those political organizations, socio-cultural, because somebody dies, they'll send the body home, they come around here to do social events. I want you to take it from that angle. I think that question is a long one. Yeah.
Yes, I think you've hit the nail in the head that we are known for parties. We like to show off. We are still very immature emotionally. We're still at that level. We're vibrating at a very low level when it comes to maturity. How we've created success for ourselves, and we like everybody else to see us as that successful individual, as opposed to
showing off,
toning it down and pulling along a lot of your own people you feel
even the most educated, especially in America, but we are not the richest.
No, we can't be, because if you look at, there are so many groups. There was one time I decided that, okay, I think I'm going to have to start going to synagogues, because I think that way we meet the right people. Meet the right people, and then start coming up with good business idea that we can use to move our community forward. Because I realized that me going to church in those days was just pointless. Like, it's a basis for nothing. Like, just because you share the same faith.
Finish your thoughts.
Just because you share the same faith and you go to the familiarity is there, it doesn't mean we're going to sit down and say, right, how do we move our people forward? And genuinely try to do that. We don't.
Does it happen in UK too? Because here in US, in fact, Nigeria, they carry last. In fact, even being uninvited, sorry to those people who are, I don't know, who are in Houston or wherever, Houston, Dallas, and many parts, Indiana, Michigan, all over, where we have our people, especially this part that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Even if you are not invited, people have their ear to the ground. They will get one party or the other. People say they work hard, so they party hard.
Of course.
Could that be your closing point? Is it also a UK thing that, look, people know they miss out? They are very big on these social things.
Very. I wouldn't want to use my own own view, because I'm not a party person. Even
just like me.
Yeah, the best you get me to do is a little gathering at home for my birthday party. If you want to go ahead and do yours and hire a massive mansion, I will come. I will come along and enjoy it. And when time comes, when it's too loud for me or whatever, I will make my quiet exit and go back to my a program at home. Yeah. So I feel, yes, people try to overcompensate again for where they are, that we're in a cold, we're in a place where we can't do what we want. But so that means when we get the opportunity, we should use it well by partying a lot. Things are bad now to the point where in London, criminals target Nigerian parties.
Excuse me.
Criminals target Nigerian parties.
Target Nigerian parties. Why?
I mean, you see people that have got Rolex, all these expensive watches, expensive jewelries, and then there was an incident, very horrible incident that happened. They actually followed a man home and then robbed him of his possessions, and then they killed him, and then they realized that the Rolex he had on was a fake Rolex.
So he died faking it.
I think he probably struggled a little bit with them, and they killed him.
So he died faking it because they say fake it till you make it. So
it was sad.
It was very sad. Something, but it cost him his life.
Yeah, it's sad that we are now at that point. But again, this goes back to values. What kind of value are we? Should we not be looking at a place where, I mean, this is how I'm going to round this up. My view for the world is, for me, for myself, is my children should not grow up to start looking for work when they get to the age and have no offer that, well, you've got a fallback option here, that if you want to do this, I'm happy for you to take it forward. So that's enough. That's part of a legacy I want to leave.
Wow.
In being this abroad that we've talked about. We've done all this work. So we don't want them to then get into the rat race again and do the same thing all over again. It's a waste. We leave zero legacy if we do that. The only thing we can leave for them is to have an option.
Wow.
Imagine if when you got to the US, you had an option that, okay, my great-grandfather said there was a work somewhere. I have that option, but I'm not going to use that. I want to make it by myself. At least you have that option. The way you will walk will be different.
Absolutely.
You will walk that soil.
Have a fallback position.
Yes. So I think that's the best thing to view, but we cannot do that alone. We can't do that single-handedly. If we look at all the large corporations, they come together as a small venture, and then it evolved into so many different things.
Right.
We cannot be slaves to these things. We cannot be slaves to these institutions forever. We have to then wake up and move out of that slavery mentality, scarcity mentality, that, oh, this thing is going to go away. It's going to go away. So I better squirrel all of it and start showing that I have some by buying Rolex, buying big car, and then just to show that I'm there now, guys. So respect me.
To intimidate others. All right. So much about Nigeria in the abroad. I see you are loaded. I'm happy. Thank you for honoring our invitation and coming to do this with us. Our time flies.
Thank you very much.
Looks like we can unpack it in one edition. So on behalf of our viewers, I'm asking that we will need to bring you back so I can put you on the spot. So if we have to ask you to come back soon, will you oblige us? Will you?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I'm always anything to help contribute a little quota into our society and community. I'm always happy to do that. So anytime, I'll definitely be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time, and say goodbye to our viewers.
Thank you very much, viewers, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much.
Until next time, thank you.
Guys, there you have it. That's Mr. Ademola Dayo. You still go by that? That's the last name.
Yes.
He's been in UK for over 30 years. He was born in the UK probably like 5 decades ago, and he has been able to share with us from his wealth of experience. And he promised that he will still touch base with us. He will circle back with us when we need to bring him up, because he's loaded and the time is just not we are not in. We just have to keep it this way this time. So till the next time that I see you, am I faking my accent?
No, you're fine.
So the next time that let me talk, not like in the abroad now. So the next time, somehow this accent thing, sometimes you find
It creeps
yourself
in.
middle, somehow unconsciously, because when you communicate, especially at workplace and everything, and when you come to our people, the way it's psychological. Okay, so our people, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining, and please share this video, press the like button, press the subscribe button, and press the notification bell so that when next we come with a new episode, you will be the first to get it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Ade, for doing this.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Till we see you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.